Part 2 of The Fruitarian Diet and Physical Rejuvenation by O.L.M. Abramowski, read by Eli Martyr. A radical change in treatment. A treatment founded on these views must naturally be very different from that at present taught at the universities, where disease is considered as an enemy of human life and as brought on by accidental cases such as changes of temperature, miasmatic influences, microbes, etc. The present school treatment tries to cure the different diseases by suppressing the different symptoms and is therefore always looking for specific remedies which have to carry with each disease. The effects of its therapeutic actions are not only uncertain, but often directly mischievous, imposing upon nature the task to get rid of the poisonous drugs called medicines, in addition to the bodily impurities. The new treatment, on the contrary, does not interfere with the different symptoms, which are considered as so much smoke produced by the internal fire, but endeavors to assist nature by keeping away everything that might interfere with the great internal cleansing process, and by removing all hindrances to the free working of the eliminating organs. The first purpose is gained by stopping, for the time, any fresh food supply. The second, by giving unlimited quantities of fresh water, and by sweating or other hydrotherapeutic measures. Yes, I advocate fruit diet not only because man is a fruit eater anatomically and physiologically, but because my experience as a patient and a physician has proved to me the beneficial influence of the natural food on healthy as well as sick people. The first will preserve their health and strength, their corporal, mental, and spiritual powers to the highest old age under a fruit diet. To the latter, the sick people, I like to say as a last injunction, do not give up hope, whatever be the matter with you. Nature can heal where human wisdom and interference fails. Return to nature. Live on man's natural food. Build your body of the normal, life and strength-giving material, and you will find that the time of miracles has not passed yet. Food and vitality. Man's body is a commonwealth of innumerable living cells, each one filled with organic electricity, so-called vitality, and forming in their totality a marvelously adjusted power plant or storehouse of organic power, i.e., of life. Life is constant motion and constant change, brought about through the outward manifestations of this organic electricity by means of the different tissues and organs forming our body. A constant stream of organic electricity and organized building material must pass through our body in order to repair the constant loss of energy and of cell substance accompanying the phenomena of life. Our food is this life-giving stream. Our food, therefore, must not only contain all the different elements composing the substance of our cells, but must contain them in organized combinations of high potential electricity so that we may eat both matter and energy. All the energy on Earth is derived from the sun. Sun power is being constantly stored up in the plants, which, under its influence, forms out of the simple elements needed in our body, food materials containing the highest latent energy. Ripe, uncooked fruit is the most attractive and delicious, and nuts are the most compact and nutritious representation of condensed sunlight, the highest accumulation of vital energy. The energetic tension, the life in the food materials, is destroyed by the temperature of boiling water. A cooked seed cannot germinate. Food thoroughly cooked is food thoroughly killed. Food partly cooked, as in our kitchens and bakehouses, is food partly dead and partly living. Nobody can live on dead food, whether mixed in the chemist's shop or in the kitchen, or on food deprived of its vitality through cooking. Many people die nowadays simply from want of vitality, through trying to live on cooked food only. Modern man lives really on the moiety of his food not killed by heat. The cooked part is so much dross and waste matter, causing disease and premature death. The natural food of man is formed by those articles we can eat, enjoy, and assimilate in their natural raw state. Living organized man wants living organized food, which he cannot get from dead animals or cooked vegetables, and his health is in direct proportion to that part of his food which he eats in its natural state. Civilized man's present diet consists largely of natural food disorganized by cooking, or of unnatural food disorganized but rendered eatable and digestible by cooking, and containing matter dangerously or directly poisonous. The consequences of this wrong diet are a general decline of civilized people in the development of body, their health, strength, duration of life, character, and social habits. The greatest enemy of life, and therefore of organic electricity, is fire, or a temperature able to sterilize albumin. The temperature of boiling water destroys life in plant or animal tissue, and therefore the process of cooking must, of necessity, deprive our food of its vitalizing qualities. Cooking means devitalization of the food material. We know that to the living albumin molecules are attached in an organized combination most of the so-called food salts. Cooking not only changes the albumin by coagulating it, but it also detaches the albumin molecule, the food salts. It tears these out of their organic combination and reduces them to a lifeless inorganic matter. We see then that from the chemical as well as from the biophorical, life-carrying standpoint, cooking interferes most disastrously with the value of our food. It practically destroys the food in its functions as a life giver and as a building material. Cooked food, therefore, is useless to our bodies as far as the building material is concerned. In order to reclaim humanity, our food, as offered by the hand of nature, will have to be used in its natural living condition, and the valuation of the food should be taken not according to its caloric or chemical standard, but by its biological, or better, its biophoric, i.e., life-giving qualities. Advantages of fruitarian diet. Raw food diet supplies every want of the human economy, and it is not only as nourishing and sustaining as the most expensive mixed diet, but it produces more energy and endurance and is more easily assimilated and is absolutely free from any dangerous matter. Raw fruit counteracts the deleterious influences of the usual mixed diet, as it prevents constipation, helps the excretion of uric acid and other acid poisons by rendering the blood more alkaline, and supplies those important food salts which, in a cooked diet, are rendered almost valueless. Raw fruit is not only food, but medicine for all people using cooked food, and these should therefore eat as much raw fruit, fresh or sun-dried, as possible, or have at least one meal a day consisting of fruit only. It is advisable for every mixed eater, in order to purify his body, to undergo a fruit cure of 4 to 6 weeks duration every year, at a place where, at a time when, the fruit is at its very best, Such cures would do more good than the usual annual visit to the seaside. If parents are not able to give up the usual abnormal dietary, they should at least allow the natural instinct of their children for fruitful play, and, if possible, bring them up on the natural diet. These will thereby escape many diseases and grow up not only healthy and strong, but gentle and lovable, and free from unnatural propensities and vices. Humanity cannot hope to escape the attacks of the ever-present microbes by cooking those few contained in the food and water. The only reliable safeguard against infectious diseases is the natural resistance of a body free from poisonous waste matter, which acts as food for disease germs. Fruit is the only food which neither introduces dangerous material into the body nor produces such while passing through it. Fruit diet will once more enable mothers to suckle their young by producing an abundance of milk rich in all necessary constituents but free from any dangerous matter. Sun-dried fruit is as good as fresh fruit, as its whole vitality is preserved. It should, however, not be cooked, but only soaked for about 18 hours in sufficient water to make it swell, and should then be eaten raw. Fruit diet does not only satisfy hunger, but also thirst, and it does not create any craving for tobacco or other stimulants. Fruit is not a luxury, but an absolute necessity in the diet of man. It is the duty of every thinking man who does not live merely to eat, to live as much as possible on man's natural food. Man's natural food. From a scientist's point of view, man is nothing but the highest developed animal, and anatomically speaking, he belongs to the fruit eaters. The shape and arrangement of his jaw and his teeth, the want of any natural organ for offense or attack, such as tusks or claws, prove that he is not naturally an aggressive animal or a destroyer of life. The relative length and internal arrangement of his digestive canal, the shape of his skull, his hands, and his feet, and his upright habits prove that his nearest surviving relatives amongst the highest animals are the man-like apes, the active chimpanzee, the powerful orangutan, and the awe-inspiring gorilla. These animals live on fruit and nuts and develop on this food such a power that, for instance, an orang, unaided, has wrenched a young tree out of the hands of 6 British sailors, and that the gorilla will take up the fight with a lion and hug this king of beasts to death in his powerful embrace. Open the mouth of a meat-eater, like the cat or the dog, and you will find that there is not one single tooth like ours, and the whole set is differently arranged from that of man. Further, we know that carnivorous animals do not sweat, as their sweat glands are atrophied, because of a sudden cooling down through heavy perspiration of the body of a meat-eater whose blood has to carry great quantities of uric acid and similar poisons found in meat, would endanger the very life of the animal. That they produce only very little saliva, as their salivary glands are similarly reduced, since their food does not need much preparation with saliva. Our teeth are wonderfully adapted for grinding grains and nuts. The natural food of man is that food which he can eat in its natural state without any interference whatever, eat with pleasure, and to the satisfaction not only of his palate and stomach, but to the satisfaction of his whole body. And, if we go through the whole world, we will find nothing answering to these desiderata but the soft, luscious, thirst and hunger-quenching fruits, and the solid, heat and strength-giving, and body-building nuts and grains. Man, like all other living creatures, is the product of circumstances and environment. He could develop as a fruit grain and nut eater, only on fruit, grain and nut food, and on nothing else. Therefore, he must have originated in a region of the earth where his particular food was produced in abundance. Man's cradle, as science tells us, stood in the region of the palms. Here, we find to the present day the most wonderful assortment of eatable fruits and nuts, and the most happy and perfect specimens of humanity. But even in the temperate zones, in fact, in every clime suitable and advantageous to man, we find trees producing suitable fruits and plants producing edible seeds. Forests of nut trees must have covered, for thousands of years, great parts of the surface of the earth, for their timber and their fruit have been found in the lowest strata of the inhabited earth. Man, then, was well provided for, and he must have existed for many years on this, his natural food, to develop into the most perfect specimen of a fruit-eater on earth. How long this easy and natural life lasted, we can but imperfectly guess. The great change of the whole life of man, and of all conditions and aspirations of his nature, came with the discovery of fire. Fire is undoubtedly the greatest factor in human progress. Without it, the advances and blessings of civilization are absolutely impossible. If man had been satisfied to use the fire for productive and scientific purposes only, he would have become master of the earth without degrading himself to the slave of his most brutal passions and desires. Soon after man had found the influence of fire in warming his body or his hut, he must have been captivated by the alluring flavors and the inviting appearance of some, perhaps accidentally, roasted animal, and he tried to eat it. The taste of cooked food once acquired has proved the curse and the bane of mankind ever since. With the help of fire, man has been able to render edible things altogether foreign to his digestive apparatus. Fire assisted him to try as food the most extraordinary articles from the animal as well as from the plant world, with the result that his desires for artificial combinations grew apace. And, ultimately, he almost forgot his natural food, the food he could eat for pleasure and profit without fire, without the help of the cook and the kitchen, the fruits, the grains, and the nuts. Man found that on the artificially prepared food he grew fat and heavy, and thought he was getting strong. His desires and passions were roused through the stimulating qualities of the unnatural food, and he took that for an expression of increased vitality and vigor. His thirst increased inordinately by the artificially seasoned and salted diets. He invented fermented and distilled drinks, and mistook their baneful influence in driving the functions of the body into mad fury for a sign of increased strength and power to enjoy life. As the years went on, man became more and more short-lived, more and more subject to disease and ailments. Important scientific facts. The plant-eaters form, still at the present time, as they have always done, the great majority of animals on earth. The highest developed plant-eaters are the fruit-eaters. The highest fruit-eater is man. Man evolved on food consisting of fruits, especially palm fruits, grains, and nuts. His teeth and digestive organs are most perfectly adapted for this diet, even more so than of his immediate forerunners, the man-like apes. More than 3/4 of humanity, at the present day, live on plant products. There are no meat-eaters in the direct line of man's ancestry. Man's organism is not adapted to a diet of unprepared meat. As long as man ate the food on which the human race originally evolved, and to which his body is adapted, he was as healthy as all the normally living animals. He did not know sickness, and his life extended to its normal term of 150 years and more. Man did not take to meat in the natural way of evolution. His body is still that of a perfect fruit eater in every respect. Man was forced to this unnatural food by terrestrial catastrophes, as the disappearance of his first habitat under the sea and the glacial period, which, for a time, deprived him of his natural food. The race of man would have died out in those times if he had not, at the proper moment, discovered the flesh foods and the use of fire to render unnatural food palatable and digestible for himself. An animal organism, and man is but the highest developed animal, may be compared to an engine in motion. As a working unit, this engine claims, first, the driver's brain power as its energy-directing agent. It is built of metal and fed with coal or other fuel. The animal body directs its own operations through its own vitality. It is built of albumin, with its organized food salts. It works on fuel food such as sugar, starch, and fat. During life, a constant loss and waste is going on in our body, not only of the fuel food, but of the building material and especially of vitality and energy. All this has to be replaced and renewed through the food. A complete food, therefore, must contain vitality or energetic tension, body-building substance, and fuel material. All animals eating their natural, living food receive abundance of these necessities and are always healthy and well fed. All life on Earth is transmuted sun power. The plants are the storehouses and accumulators of sun energy, and their products contain, in their natural state, the highest energetic tension. Coal, the oldest plant product, is the great power producer on Earth. Fruits and seeds, the noblest and highest products of plant life, form the most luscious, the most compact representation of condensed sunlight, the highest accumulation of vital energy. They are perfect foods for man. The fruit eaters, next below man in the animal scale, are represented by the man-like apes, the orang and gorilla, prodigies in strength, endurance, and longevity. Cooking has rendered accessible to man vast stores of food material, which man cannot digest in their raw state. But boiling heat destroys the albumin molecule, the building material for the body, which at the same time supplies the vital principle. Cooked food is like a burnt granary, containing a variable quantity of salvage, concealed in useless debris. Cooked food is partly destroyed food, and can never again regain its full feeding or life-giving value. A body fed on cooked food is a body starved with regard to real life-giving food, but overfilled with useless waste material. Every animal body is able to regularly remove the waste produced by its own workings. It preserves internal cleanliness, which is necessary to a harmonious discharge of all its functions, i.e., to perfect health. When surplus waste is introduced and the body cannot discharge it or burn it off at once, our system must give the intruder lodging room and must find a modus vivendi under adverse circumstances. The bodily functions must, to a certain extent, be hampered by this deposited waste. The working of the organs become irregular and often painful. A state of chronic disease is created. At times, the body, stimulated by changes in temperature or an extra surfeit, etc., makes a special effort to remove the foreign waste. This critical effort is called an acute disease. There is but one great cause of disease: internal impurity. There is but one cure for disease: the removal of internal dirt. The waste matter is either carried away in the shape of increased discharges from the different excretory organs, the mucous membranes, the skin, etc., or it is burnt off through increased bodily heat, accompanied by fever, thirst, and want of appetite. The only rational assistance we can give nature during these critical exertions at self-purification are a constant supply of fresh air, oxygen for the burning off, the free internal and external use of water and fruit juices as carrying and dissolving agents for the impurities, and total abstinence from solid food in order to give nature a free hand. All other attempts at curing disease are but an interference with nature, especially the introduction of poisonous drugs, stimulants, alcohol, serums, lymphs, and can only do harm by increasing and impeding the work of nature. There is but one way of preventing disease: to live in the open air and on our normal food, unspoiled by artificial interference, on the sun-cooked fruits and seeds. When the people, free from bloodshed in their daily meals, live on their natural food in its natural state, when they keep their digestive organs free from irritating, biting, and fermenting artificialities, and their blood free from poisonous waste matter derived from dead food, there will be no more need for the stimulating and soothing fiend, alcohol, who only waits the opportunity of a little carelessness to destroy its unthinking victim, and there will be no more need for prescriptions of drugs and poisons. Okay, looks like we've come to the end of this short little book. Thank you so much for listening. The rest of the pages in this book give a bit of a guide as to what other books you can source out for yourself if you're researching natural hygiene. There are several here that he lists. There's so for people that are interested, there's a comprehensive guidebook to natural, hygienic, and humane diet by Sidney H. Beard. Here there's written a valuable work giving a clear presentation of the principles relating to simple, wholesome living and the rational treatment of the sick. So there's a book called The Living Temple by Dr. J. H. Kellogg, M.D. There's also The Testimony of Science in Favor of Natural and Humane Diet by Sidney H. Beard. There is Errors in Eating and Physical Degeneration by Sir William E. Cooper. The Cancer Scourge and How to Destroy It by Robert Bell, M.D. Health for the Million by A.B. Olson, M.D. and M.E. Olson, M.A. He also lists here helpful and instructive booklets. I'll just go through a bunch of them. Is Flesh Eating Morally Defensible by Sidney H. Beard. Brother Payne and His Crown by Dr. Hosea Oldfield. The Toiler and His Food by Sir William Earnshaw Cooper. Essays of the Golden Age by Dr. Hosea Oldfield. Is Meat Eating Sanctioned by Divine Authority? By Sir William Earnshaw. How to Avoid Appendicitis by Dr. Hosea Oldfield. The Failure of Vivisection and the Future of Medical Research by Dr. Keneally, I believe. The Penny Guide to Fruitarian Diet and Cookery by Hosea Oldfield. The Church and Food Reform by Reverend A.M. Mitchell. The Diet for Cultured People, Dr. Hosea Oldfield. The Blood Tribute of Christendom by Sidney H. Beard. Shall We Vivisect? No, I say, by Dr. Hosea Oldfield. Sorry, I say is just me being silly. Well, not silly, but I'm adding my input. So the title is Shall We Vivisect, period. The Cruelties of the Meat Trade by Dr. Hosea Oldfield. And that looks like it. And finally, the book finishes off with the quote, "And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. Genesis 1:29. That's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Make sure to subscribe to the FreeMelon Society if you enjoy the content on this channel. Give me a like, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment if you have some questions, and we will definitely see you next time here on the FreeMelon Society. Okay, God bless. Love you very much. Bye, guys.